The following program is a Creative Magic Network production. Hey guys, as a part of the Creative Magic Network, today's episode is brought to you by Maura Sweeney, the ambassador of happiness herself, with her podcast, Maura Sweeney, Living Happy Inside Out, with reflective questions, anecdotal stories, and encouraging thoughts. Maura empowers you toward transformation, reinvention, and personal growth. So let's get to it right now.
Welcome to the Maura Sweeney podcast. Maura is an international speaker, Huffington Post contributor, and the trademarked ambassador of happiness. In 10 minutes or less, Maura weaves clever anecdotes, insightful questions, and personal stories to challenge your mindsets and enable you to live happier from the inside out. Here's Maura with today's podcast for you.
Are you living with inspiration? Well, if you're on a path to living happy from the inside out, today's question will definitely uplift you. Are you living with inspiration? Well, inspiration as a word conjures up all kinds of ideas for all of us, but I'm going to give you a few of the definitions today since they're varied, and each one of them involves a slightly different picture and also a slightly different feeling to go along with it so that you can actually feel the sense of what inspiration is all about. At its base, inspiration is an animating action or an influence. Inspiration is an arousal of the mind to special, unusual activity or creativity. It's also known as a sudden intuition as part of solving a problem. And this is a really great one. Intuition is known as divine guidance, a special influence of a divinity on the minds of human beings. It arouses us to a particular emotion or action. And here's one that I thought was even great too, and it came from a medical dictionary. Inspiration has everything to do with breathing. Not necessarily breathing out, but breathing in, drawing air into the lungs and actually causing the lungs to expand. Let me give you a few synonyms for the word inspiration. They involve encouragement, creativity, genius, motivation, stimulation, revelation, arousal or awakening, brainstorming, enlivening, elating, emboldening. Now, I want to give you only 3 antonyms for the word inspiration because you'll see its opposite and exactly how they make you feel. Here they are. 3 antonyms or opposites for inspiration: discouragement, hindrance, and depression. So when I ask you if you're living with inspiration, now you know exactly what I'm speaking of. Put yourself in an environment of all the ideas of inspiration and compare it to how you have been feeling in certain venues. The question came up recently because I had 2 encounters, both of which had something to do with inspiration or a lack of it. The first was one-on-one, and the second one was more of a public venue. A few days ago, I was sitting in Starbucks having a cup of tea, and who walked in but an acquaintance that I had not seen in months. We were both very happy to see each other. This woman sat down, and she was clearly distressed. She found herself between 2 uncomfortable, seemingly opposing options, neither one of which was a good one. She felt upset. She was depressed. She was beside herself, and she was obviously clearly uninspired. So as we were there, and I'm just listening to her, I could feel her distress. And I started asking her a few questions. I offered a little bit of information. And suddenly the conversation turned, and all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, and out of her mouth came a brand new idea. And I heard it and I laughed out loud and I thought, my gosh, I never heard of that idea before. And yet it was right in front of our eyes. It was so obvious, but because she was so accustomed to being in an environment that was so highly polarized, she couldn't see a third or an inspired outcome. And yet, as soon as the conversation changed, she ended up being the very person that had an idea for her own inspiration and uplift. Well, the second experience I had recently that involved the word inspiration was being at an event. I had attended a forum with experts, and it was for open dialogue. And I thought, oh, this is great. I enjoy going to so many of these events where I get to experience other people's ideas, compare them with my own, and always look for new and better outcomes. Well, surprisingly, at this forum, something billed as an event for open conversation and lively exchange, I was actually surprised because there was a lack of inspiration that resulted from it. The ideas and opinions that were proffered by the experts actually were set forth with such a sense of certainty, as if to say, this is what we think, we're the experts, and this is the only way to think. And in addition to that, there was a certain amount of derision, a making fun of any potential alternative ideas to their expert opinions. The result of it was that there was hardly any real conversation or dialogue or lively exchange of ideas. It was so surprising to me that I thought, oh, I feel so uninspired. I don't think I said it that way, but sitting there, I felt instead discouraged, hindered, and actually depressed from the standpoint of feeling pressed down. Now, it didn't end there because I ended up speaking with a couple of people when the event was over. Two individuals in particular, both of whom had completely different ideas from one another, and they both happened to share coming out of the event that they felt burdened, tired, and totally uninspired, although they didn't use the word uninspired, but the feelings that they carried, rather than being enervated, animated, or feeling hopeful, they felt just the opposite. So what does this all mean for you, and how does it play back to you? Well, if you've been in a place feeling uninspired, I want you to consider two separate ideas. Number one, what environments are you frequenting? What arenas are you around where you feel less than inspired? And when you're in those places, is there something new that you can offer, even if it's just a small item that will help change the tenor, the feeling, and the expansiveness of that environment? If not, you might want to consider withdrawing your support, withdrawing your engagement, or even stepping back from a place of agreement. That's a way of making yourself feel uplifted just by not placing yourself in that public environment where you don't feel that there's an opportunity for you to be that spark. However, there's a second thought you can also think about, and this is it. You are a force that can contribute to just about any environment you are in. You being that creative force, being that very source and that very fulcrum of inspiration. What environments and what places have you been to? What people are you around? Where do you go to find environments where you do feel inspired and where your sense of place and space can actually help contribute to more creativity, more engagement, more genius, more motivation, more revelation, stimulation, awakening, and brainstorming? You know, sometimes we can all, every one of us, because of familiarity and environments we find ourselves in, feel very restricted and very pressed down and truly uninspired. But if we will take a few minutes and think about the alternatives and really take stock of where we go, where we venture into, and maybe perhaps different venues we can tap into, we can actually uplift and exchange feelings of heaviness, discouragement, hindrance, and even that feeling of depression with one of extreme liberty and new ideas and hopefulness, not only for the here and now, but also for things to come. So those have been my thoughts today for you about living with inspiration and making yourself happy from the inside out. But before we go, let's hold on, because there's someone else who wants to share with us what makes them happy from the inside out too. This has been Maura with Maura for You.
Hi, this is Alex Okoroji from Lagos, Nigeria. I am an actress, writer, talk radio host, speaker, author, and popularly known as the Queen of Expression for using different mediums of the art to express myself and empower people globally. Now, I have learned that my happy place is when I'm expressing myself and using my art to bring joy to others. It is when I get feedback for something I did, wrote, or said, and how something I have created has impacted the recipient or solved a problem for them. Now, we all know that art is an expression of oneself and one's experiences, but it is also a reflection of one's culture, society, and thoughts, and in many cases, one's truth. Now, if I can find the energy to continue to create these mediums of expression and use them to prefer a solution, connect others, and add value to mankind, now that is what makes me truly happy.
For more insights on living happy from the inside out, subscribe to this podcast. To learn more about Maura, visit her moraforyou.com website, where you'll find videos, blogs, books, and the Foundations of Happiness self-study e-course. Maura, 4, letter U.com, where Maura is always for you.
Alrighty, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. How did you like it? How did you like it? I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody out there, and also everybody who contribute to our Patreon page. You are really helpful to this show, and we are grateful for your help. In case you're wondering, Patreon is a simple way for you to contribute to the podcast and get super cool exclusive rewards in return. I promise you will love the perks. Our Patreon page is at frederickby.com. That's Frederick with a C. buylikebabai.com, and click Patreon in the header. The money is used to cover our production costs and enhancements. It is also used to cover our editing time and sharing to different podcast channels. You can contribute for as low as $1, and you can even choose your platform, either Podbean or Patreon.com. See ya next time.